Just so you know, we do have to go through what's inside these bags in a minute. Before we do, welcome to Seeds and Roger. My name is Rosina. I am a crochet designer. I live in the southwest of the UK, so going to Scotland was no mean feat. So I need a cup of tea so I can talk through my week in Scotland. So the plan for this video is, I believe, I make things up as I go along most of the time. I will talk about my trip to my sister's, then we'll talk about the wool gathering and my weekend in Edinburgh with my gang, with my peeps. I have video footage that I took from the very start, and I'll show Knockando Mill that I visited. I will show our trip to the Findhorn River. I will show all the stuff that happened in Edinburgh. Things I didn't film were my train trip from Avonmore to Edinburgh, which was 10 out of 10, stunning. So, bit of chat from me, show off my yarn, little video tour of what I got up to. I think that's the plan. I should probably go and get my notes, because I did write a list of everything I wanted to talk about, which included my trip beyond Edinburgh. I spent the first 3 nights in a few hours north of Edinburgh, and then I travelled down by train to Edinburgh to go to the Woolly Good gathering and spend some time with some friends and dive in and out of all the beautiful wool and yarns, whether that was at the festival or at the multitude of yarn shops that are in and around Edinburgh. Let's do it in chronological order. I think that's probably the safe bet, because it was a whirlwind adventure, a whirlwind, and I loved every minute of it. I have to go back to work tomorrow. I am sad about it. So I shall be reminiscing and thinking often and fondly of the last week, because it was lovely. My sister lives a few hours north of Edinburgh, and within our visit I've been to a yarn mill, which I'd never heard of before. I've been shopping at a small farm shop and bought yarn. It's like almost like a sixth sense, I'm sure, sniffing out the yarn and where I can find it. I always managed to find a skein or two. Even at the service station there was yarn. We did 4 main things whilst we stayed with my sister. 5 if you include gifting a granny square blanket that I finished off in the car on our way up, of which I have filmed a video tutorial for that if you're interested in learning how to do a continuous join as you go. I finished the blanket I made in that video tutorial on our way to Scotland. It was for a blanket for my new nephew, who is a teeny tiny baby, and the reason for going to Scotland in the first place was actually to go and see him and welcome him to the world. So he got a granny square blanket. His big sister, I made a blanket for her too. If you know my Disco Stitches short scarf, it was based off of that, but actually ended up being way too busy, so I didn't do anything with it. But it was the perfect gift for my niece, who isn't going to care about ugly crochet. It was beautiful to her, I hope. The Knockando Mill is just of the right of Inverness and underneath Elgin, is how I understand it. It is a mill that is mega old, is 230 years old. They've been carding and teasing and making roving yarn. As much as I love yarn and wool and crochet and knitting, my understanding of the process is surface level. So I forget the order in which things are done, but you're talking, you get the fleece, so it needs to be cleaned, it needs to be combed, it needs to be the word I just used a moment ago and have promptly forgotten, carded, and then spun into threads, plied, and then there are looms and things for making cloth, woven cloth, and they are stunningly beautiful and really, I mean, works of art. And the shame being was that the machines that we saw in the mill were not, they can work, but they were just all shut down whilst we were there. So there was no demonstrations. We watched a video instead. And then they have a modern bit at the back, which is the bit where they do more work now. So it's, I don't think they use much in terms of like mass producing on the old tools and equipment. My favourite machine was a teasing machine, where if you've got yourself a nice bit of woolen cloth and you want to make it halo-y and fluffy, you run it through the teasing machine, and a bajillion actual teasels scuff up and scratch the surface of the fibres of the woven cloth to make it floofy, and like, I guess, trap a that in turn will like trap a surface of air and make it even warmer, right? Like I said, my knowledge is limited, but it's still fascinating to go and see it all happening. And I may not absorb the information like a proper scholar, but I loved every minute of it. It was really interesting. And then outside there's the tensor things so that you can stretch out, block the fabrics that are made, and it's really just super interesting. So I bought yarn from Knockando Mill as well. In the afternoon, my sister had booked a water taxi to go across the Findhorn River. Essentially, it's a step up. It's a step up from a dinghy. It's almost like a dinghy with a motor, life jackets and all. It's a 5-minute whiz across the river to get to the beach on the other side, where there's nobody about. I don't know if it's a river at that point. It's where it meets the sea. So is it like an estuary or something different? I don't know the terms. Doesn't matter. Seals are plenty. This is a really good place for seal spotting. A quick whiz across the water to the deserted beach on the other side, and then can't remember the name of the forest. I've been there before as well. Culbin Forest, maybe. They filmed the Odyssey there recently, and if you look up the Odyssey trailer with Matt Damon, I guess it's coming out soon, there are views of where we were in that trailer, which I think is really funny. I don't know why it's funny, but it was just like, whoop, oh, I went there, been there. It's absolutely stunning, it's gorgeous. And then, yeah, so tempting to collect seashells and put them in your pockets. And then it's not until you've got a pocket full of seashells that you go, what am I going to do with these? And then you just promptly like sprinkle them back on the beach, go, just don't. Seals, we went to chat to the seals, very chatty, so they were, and didn't get too close because I didn't want to be chased by a seal. I wish I'd gotten a bit closer because they're beautiful, beautiful creatures. Editing me from the future, just popping in to say I deleted my chat about day 2 because it wasn't very exciting. I mean, the day itself was fun, but the way I told it was not exciting. So I've popped it in the bin, and we're going to skip straight to getting the train to Edinburgh to go to the yarn festival. It gets more exciting because we start focusing on the yarn even more. The next day, train trip, 3.5 hours to Edinburgh. It's a train through the Cairngorms, and it's stunning. Mountains, snow-topped, sheep in the fields below, peaty rivers that are the colour of tea, tumbling through rocks. It's just, I mean, weirdly it reminds me of Dartmoor, which is up the road from me. But Dartmoor is such a small scale in comparison. But there is like this kind of a definite resemblance. Only you turn up to Scotland and look at the landscapes there, and it's just like been blown up on a scale 10 times the size of Dartmoor. It's absolutely crazy. I arrived at Waverley and met up with Faye Dashper Hughes and Michelle White. saying their full names so that you can go and look them up, because they are crochet designers who you probably know anyway. But Faye is Faye-Hughes online, and Michelle, you may know her better as Dora, for she is Dora Explored, or Dora Does. And this is maybe our third or fourth time of getting together, a couple of nights somewhere and doing a yarn festival at the same time. So we've hung out at Unravel before a couple of times, and Wonderwool Wales, and this time we thought we would try the Woolly Good Gathering, which is a beautifully thought out yarn festival in Edinburgh. A really inclusive space, really wide open areas, plenty of space for sitting down, delicious food, and just really nicely done. A really good mix of vendors and just beautiful yarn. It's just sort of leaves you overwhelmed a lot of the time, just so stunned, because there's so much going on, but not as bamboozling and overwhelming as the super busy yarn festivals where everything is packed in, you know, as much as possible, and it's almost too much. We did both days, which was enormously helpful, because it meant that you could kind of be more leisurely and there was no rush to do anything. We could take our time, and I think that helped loads. The yarn festival didn't begin until the Friday, so Thursday afternoon was an opportunity to go to the yarn shops in and around Edinburgh. I don't want to say in and around Edinburgh, they were all in Edinburgh. We went to 4 yarn shops that were very specifically yarn shops, and we certainly managed to be drawn like magnets, like moths to a flame, to any other shop that happened to sell wool and yarn. You'd go into a shop that looked nice, had nice vibes, just, you know, it might be a clothes shop, and lo and behold, there was a wall of yarn at the back. That happened 2 or 3 times, and a delightful surprise that 2 of them were on the street that we had our accommodation on. What are the chances? It's almost like it was pre-planned, and it wasn't. I promise, it wasn't. So day 1 was a trip to Be Inspired Fibres, followed by a trip to the Fibre yard, followed by checking into our accommodation, followed by Prosecco at Ginger Twist Studios. Then we had some dinner at a place called Herringbone, which was very tasty. And then we went back to the flat. And the flat was very, very central, too central. The windows did not block out a single iota of noise. So you could hear all the traffic, all the people down below, and it was very noisy. And I was particularly jammy and got the room at the back, so the noise was a lot more muted. And I did feel a bit bad because Michelle and Faye were sharing the room at the front, and boy, it was like there were no windows at all, essentially. Day 2 in Edinburgh, very leisurely. Didn't leave the house until about 10:30. We went to Kathy's yarn shop before we went to the festival, and then we walked to the festival. And before I forget, lunch was delicious and I want it again. I've been thinking about it ever since. It was like a takeout tub of Japanese food with chicken and noodles with 2 pork gyozas on the top. Very, very juicy gyozas, so they were. It was so good. It was so good. Before we talk about the yarn show, the wool shops. Yarn. And actually, there are no duff yarn shops in Edinburgh. They're all really good recommended yarn shops. But you may as well go to them all. If you're going to be in the city, go to them all. You have to. It's like the law. I've made it. It's called Zini's Law. The first one we went to is a treasure trove, a proper cavern of delights. It's called Be Inspired Yarns or Be Inspired Fibres, can't remember which. And it's in a really unassuming place. You could easily walk past it. You're going to have to Google where they all are because I haven't got a clue. We were guided by Google Maps. And if you think of a yarn shop, do you think of maybe all the double knits in one area, or the 4 plies in another? Perhaps everything is together on shelves in colour coordinated rows. If you think that, but then think the complete opposite, that's Be Inspired Fibres. And if anything, let's not worry about taking the yarn out of the bags or the boxes. We'll just leave them where they are. You can have a rummage or ask the owner, who must have like a mind palace full of filing cabinets full of information about every yarn that she has and the location of every yarn and where it all is in amongst this jumble of gorgeousness. It's fascinating to go to, and I think the best bet is that if you're going to visit, have something in mind. And by all means, just be a browser, no problem at all. It's like a really interesting visit. But if you want something specific, don't go looking for it. You ask where it is and she will know. Or if you don't know what it is you want, but you know what you want to make, the recommendations spring forth from her like a fountain of knowledge. It's incredible. There's so many beautiful yarns there. All these yarns that I've only ever seen online, they are there. I think lots of European yarns, probably beyond as well. Straight afterwards, we had a cup of tea to rest and recuperate from that glorious mission. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. And then we headed to the Fibre Yard, which is a relatively new shop in Edinburgh, opened last August, and complete opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of layout and organisation. It is the modern yarn shop of dreams. Absolutely gorgeous. Went back again on the last day too, just because one visit wasn't enough. They do Kaos yarn, which I've always been eyeballing online and never been able to fondle. They did some Norwegian yarn. They did Rauma yarn. And I saw that cottons, silks, cashmere, wool, alpaca, everything in between, all the blends. Ulysses was another one I saw. So many yarns, and I bought a few things. I bought something in every shop, by the way. I'll show you in a minute. Just really considered layout, and it was so easy to find things for projects because it kind of leapt out at me what I wanted. A high recommend. Then Ginger Twist Studios, which is a very well-known shop. I went to it last time when it was on the opposite side of the road, which was a teeny tiny place, and now it's much bigger. Lots of yarn, notions and fabrics, really colourful, a beautiful display of samples all around the top of the shop of knitted sweaters. But I didn't see any crochet sweaters in that collection, which made me a little bit sad. But delightful nevertheless. There was some other crochet bits and bobs in the shop, so it wasn't like it was all knitting exclusive. Crochet is definitely being embraced more by yarn shops and by yarn vendors at yarn shows, which is good news. I think crochet is on the up for sure. There was a crochet sweater as you walked in the door. It was on a little mannequin, so that was the first thing you saw when you walked in. And there was a couple of really pretty blankets as well. Loads to choose from in there. Spoilt for choice. There's John Arbon Textiles. I bought, I'll tell you what I bought in a minute. It was almost, the curation of these shops is just incredible and exciting and awesome. What I liked about that was open till 8 p.m. and we wouldn't have been able to squeeze it in had it not been open, especially I think it was like almost like a precursor to the yarn show. Come in, have a glass of Prosecco, do a bit of mingling, a bit of shopping, and have a nice sort of chilled time. That was really good. But I think we were quite late arriving, so we missed a few faces of people that we know who'd gone earlier, and it would have been a really nice opportunity to catch up with the people that we missed. So it's kind of sad, because when we were at the yarn show there wasn't a lot of time. It was really difficult to have proper catch-ups. When you're talking to vendors or the organisers, because it's organised by Alison Chu, who is the founder of Murit magazine, and gosh, I met Alison in 2018 when the Edinburgh Yarn Festival was a thing, and then again I think probably the following year at Edinburgh Yarn Festival, where we hung out a little bit. And because she is one of the team that runs the Woolly Good Gathering, you can't sit down and just go, oh, how's it going, and then just like have a gas bag. You can't. But the same applies for the vendors as well, who would love to be able to talk to at more depth, with more time to spare, at a more kind of chilled out way, in a more chilled out way. You can't do it because there's money to make. There's yarn to sell. I'm just going to take my barking mad scarf off because I'm getting hot and overexcited. But if you want a free pattern for a houndstooth scarf, it's free on my blog. The fourth proper yarn shop we went to, Kathy's Yarns or Kathy's Wools, can't remember, was a more traditional, what I would think of as a more traditional yarn shop. It's tucked away down some little steps, and again, I assume it was Kathy herself, very knowledgeable about yarn. Everywhere we go, the people know their stuff. It's really amazing. Some sold beautiful yarn, so it was like West Yorkshire Spinners, some really nice ranges from West Yorkshire Spinners, and lots of local yarn, hand spun and dyed in Scotland, and then lots of a coffee table full of books and a sofa. So I really like, actually, 2 out of 4 of the yarn shops had sofas, so you could sit down and chill out and maybe do some knitting if you wanted to, or some crochet, or maybe you're with a friend who doesn't do those things and they can sit and doom scroll in the corner while you have the best time ever. So those are the yarn shops. The venue is a school, so we have like a school hall, a dining area, canteen, classrooms, and it's all filled with vendors selling yarn and yarn related items and crafty things and bits and bobs. And each room you go in, it's all like, what's in this room? And it's all very exciting. And you have to be careful just to take it one step at a time. That's my advice. Just go with the flow. Don't, like, if you're all in one go and go, ah! And the good thing is that because it's all separated into bits, you can do each step at a time. Do one room, grab yourself a cup of tea or a can of whatever and a brownie. Go and have lunch. Maybe just sit down for a bit, take it all in. Have you booked yourself a workshop or a talk? We booked one Thank you, Faye and Michelle, for doing this, because it didn't even occur to me. They cottoned onto this talk. Crochet, the history of crochet in 100 objects. Eleanor Gilchrist is doing a PhD in the history of crochet, specifying in a certain avenue of it, I think. But it was a really fascinating talk, and it was really interesting, and it's given me food for thought for sure. And now I want to find lots of information about the history of crochet, but more in terms of what it means in social history, I think, because I'd always assumed that crochet was kind of like the lesser cousin, the smaller cousin, the more ignored, demanding sibling or undemanding sibling of knitting. Like knitting was king, and crochet was for the common folk, to put it into a blanket kind of umbrella term, which I'm wrong. Knitting was labour. Knitting was practical and needed to be hard wearing and stuff, like when in terms of like gansies and things like that, where it's going to keep the fisherman warm, for example, or socks where your feet need to be warm and dry. Crochet was for the upper classes who made pretty things, dainty things, frivolities. I found it really fascinating, and I want to know more, and I want to know the correlation between that, the social history of it, and what it means now, and how has it influenced how we see crochet now. What is the impact? Is that why crochet is not as popular as knitting? Because if you look at knitting books and knitting patterns and Ravelry, there are way more to do with knitting than there are crochet. There's way more study and research into knitting, I think. So do you have any resources? Do you know of any resources about genuine social history relating to crochet? I'm not talking about assumptions, I'm talking about actual articles and texts and all of that relating to how we've come. Because I asked on Threads the other day about why crochet is seen as lesser, and I got some really interesting responses. So if you want to read them, there's like 90 comments about people's theories about why crochet is lesser. And is it? Because some people said it was fabricated. It's not true. Knitters don't think that. It's just you crocheters think that you're lesser. You've got like a chip on your shoulder. Nobody actually said that, but that was my interpretation. But there have been other online chats, like in Facebook groups and that make this assumption that crochet is for cheap yarn to make blankets, and crochet is for blankets and toys only, not for garments. Well, this frustrates me, and the whole of it, I want to be able to pull these threads out of my brain and be able to like put it on a timeline or something I can see and understand, this river of connections and the tributaries and how it all works. I don't know if we've got that for crochet. What do you think? Is that just absolute claptrap? Let me know what you think. But the talk was really good. But at that point I was absolutely pooped, and I may have started swimming a little bit, but not because I wasn't enjoying it, because actually the topic was fascinating. It's just that, God, the travel, going to Scotland in the first place takes us 2 days, because we stop off at Kendal and then do 2 separate journeys. So that in itself is tiring. And then doing all the activities at my sister's house, tiring. Then meeting up with friends, doing all these exciting things. by which time, yeah, we're all pretty pooped. But still, I want to go in and I want to, yeah, this information is just like, give me more. I had to go make myself another cup of tea because I'm talking myself dry. Where were we? Yarn. Yarny, yarny, yarn. Edinburgh, Edinburgh, Edinburgh. I don't know what to say about the Yarn Festival other than that it was a really good one. Really nice. And I think as well, much improved on, and no shade, but not improved necessarily, sorry, that's the wrong term, but I preferred it to the Edinburgh Yarn Festival, which often got comments about the lighting, so you couldn't actually see the yarn in a true light because it was quite dark, it felt like it almost became a caricature of what it wanted to be. And don't get me wrong, I would, if it came back, I would probably still want to go. But I think it sort of got so big that it overwhelmed itself. Whereas this is small and personal and friendly, and it's about community and supporting everybody. And that message is clear throughout. And I thought that was really lovely. And it felt, you could feel it, you know? And there was no, what's the word? No elitism at all. And it just had really nice vibes. Really nice vibes. The only comment I would have is that, and this is going to change for next year, is that there was one hot drinks stand. And next year they're going to have, I think they're going to have 2. So the queue was always massive for that. But to be honest with you, actually, we queued and it's like 10 minutes waiting for your cup of tea or your coffee. But we took that to kind of reflect and talk about what we'd seen so far and what we wanted to do next. It wasn't like you weren't stood there going, oh my God, I just want a cup of tea. you might talk to somebody else in the queue, or you'd go, oh, right, let's kind of gather ourselves. What's the plan next? The time was well spent, even if you're like, I really want a cup of tea. Thoroughly recommend. And I've forgotten to mention 2 of the other yarn shops that weren't yarn shops. Ragamuffin was one. It was on the corner of near where we stayed, and it's a clothes shop, does beautiful, really nice clothes, including things like hand knit. Looked hand knit, might have been machine knit, probably machine knit. Don't know, I didn't ask, I should have asked. But there are patterns and traditional Scottish looking patterns in knitwear, like hats and wrist warmers and scarves and the like. And at the back of the shop they had wool yarn, and behind the till they had Zakami yarn. Zakami is a duo husband and wife team based in Scotland, and they are amongst the founding team of the Woolly Good Gathering. And honestly, lovely, the loveliest, nicest people. And I actually, this shawl I'm making is the Zakami yarns, and I bought this from Unravel the year before last. So and her yarn, their yarn is beautiful, really, really nice. And their yarn, the hand-dyed yarn, it was literally in the window and behind the till, just tickling us, teasing us with the anticipation, because we saw it before we went to the yarn show and we were like, it's here, look, it's here. And then down the road a bit, St Mary's Road, I want to say, I should know, it's the road I stayed on, can't remember, there is Scottish Textile Showcase, which is really like luxurious fabrics and traditional kind of knits and hats and wool coats that were beautiful, but lots of money, but beautiful. They had yarn in the front as well, but it was the posh stuff. The shop opened at 10. It was 4 minutes past 10 as when we just left the flat, walked into the shop and looking around, and we're like, oh, is it all right if we film, la la la, and they were like, yeah, that's fine, and literally turned around. It was just us for about 2 minutes, and then the tourists started spilling in, bearing in mind it's quite a small space, and it went from a really exciting visit to this shop to, whoa, where did all these people come from? I need to leave now. It was just almost like sardines. I don't know where they came from. They must have known. I didn't know what this shop was, but everybody seemed to have had it on their itinerary or something, because it felt planned, like everybody piling in. It was too much, and I just had to get out of there. But maybe you know, the last half hour on a Tuesday or something like that, it might be the best time to go. But this was a Saturday morning, so it's no wonder it was busy. I don't actually know who this dude is, by the way. This is my kid, one of my kids' cups. It's just because I broke my budgie mug. I'm so disappointed. My budgie mug got broken, so I can't have my budgie mug anymore. So I'm mugless at the moment, trying to find one that matches me, and I haven't. It's really, really upsetting not to have my mug anymore. And it wasn't even my mug. I stole it from my son. Father Christmas bought it for him a few years ago, but it was. So we left that shop and went to have brunch at a place called Rock Salt on Jeffrey Street, just across the crossroads. And I ordered a Turkish breakfast. It was the best breakfast I've ever had, and it was massive, and it set me up for the rest of the day. That's all I can say, and I loved every single bite. It was immense, and it was. If I go back to Edinburgh, I'm going there, and I'm gonna have a Turkish breakfast again, because it was awesome. Loved it. Oh, almost on a par with the Japanese lunch that I'd had the day before. And Faye will attest to that, because she squirted me with her gyoza juice. Anyway, then we went back to the yarn festival, and this time round we caught a taxi because we were pooped, and it was probably taxi was a good plan. And I had my luggage with me anyway, which was, by the way, just a rucksack. I had a normal plain rucksack, and I could only buy so much yarn. It had to fit in the rucksack, otherwise I wouldn't have been able to get home, or I would have had to have spent a fortune on another bag to take on to the aeroplane. Me, Michelle and Faye also met up with Charlie, who some of you may remember used to have a podcast of her own. She's the loveliest person, and it was really nice to catch up with her, because again, I'd met her a few years ago in Edinburgh, and it was really nice to hang out again after all this time. And so we went back to the festival, did a bit more shopping. The day before I'd been relatively conservative, I thought, so I made a few more purchases the second day, and there's still more. I've got a couple of regrets. One, I wanted to buy some yarn from Mamie and Florrie, and I wanted to buy some yarn from the Crafty, I think she's called the Crafty Bird, but she's at Flock in Bristol next month, so I'm sorely tempted. Both Amy from Mamie and Florrie and the Crafty Bird, they're both going to be in Bristol in May, mid-May, so I am tempted to go to that, because it's an hour and a bit from where I live, so that doesn't feel quite so overwhelming, and I think it will just be a day trip, which is good, but I'll be mostly on my own. I think one or two people that might be going. I get very shy when I'm on my own though, and I get frightened. Even though there's nothing wrong with going on your own at all, it's just that I'm more inclined to be shop focused rather than hanging out with mates. And I'm going to try and work on striking up conversations with people I don't know. I can't remember what else happened on the second day. second yarn festival day, I mean, because that was actually our third day and final day. Quick stop up afterwards to Sosterine Green in Waverley to have a look at the yarn there. It's about twice the size of the branch in Exeter, and so therefore the yarn area they have is twice the size. They had Mohair there, which the Exeter branch does not, and actually it was like £6 something, and I'm not tempted by it because it didn't feel very nice. Drops Kid Silk Mohair has got silk in it, whereas the Sosterine Green stuff doesn't. Yet it's more expensive somehow and doesn't feel as soft. Not sure why that is. But anyway, after that it was time to go home. I had to get a tram, go to the airport, get put on some weird stand at the gate waiting list because I checked in last. And I thought, because I had a ticket, that's it, I've got a place on the plane. But apparently not. They oversold the flight, which they do on a regular basis for domestic flights. And because I checked in last, I was put on a waiting list to see if I could get on the flight, because there was a chance that I might not. If that was the case, then I would have had to stay in a hotel. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It didn't happen. I got on my flight because apparently a huge portion of people don't turn up for their flights that they've booked and checked in for. It's weird. So thank you to the person that couldn't be bothered to fly to Bristol on the Saturday night, because that meant I could get home. For you. And what a weekend it was. So let's talk about the yarn next. Boom, let's do it. Some of the yarn I bought was eye-wateringly expensive, but I forgive myself. It just means I need to carry on cutting my own hair for a good while longer. I'd much rather spend my money on yarn than such frivolities. This is from Knockando Mill. This is an Aran weight yarn. It is North Country Cheviot. Cheviot, I think it's Cheviot, not Cheviot. It's mixed with Hebridean, and I think the sheep, well, they lived very close by to the mill. But I have not done my research about the very specific sheep, but I know that it's local. So it says, Knockando Wool Mill, the only district wool mill left on mainland Scotland, has been producing authentic yarns in the Spey Valley for over 240 years. Our small team of craftsmen and women use the same traditional skills which have been passed down through generations. I bought 2 shades of this yarn. I'm going to make a hat. I was just going to make a hat with these 2, but I'm going to add in a 3rd colour, which I think is going to look really good. I know exactly which hat pattern I'm going to choose. And this is from the farm shop that we stopped at to buy organic bison burgers and some homemade vanilla ice cream, which was banging. This is Marcassie Organic Gotland and Shetland. And this, again, I could see where the sheep lived from the field outside the farm shop window. It's got a bit of a woolly smell, but not like intense, but it's still pleasant and creamy and nice. So all of these yarns, they're very woolly wools. So if you're after butter, just like butter merino or what have you, this is not what it is, but I don't find it offensive against my skin, although I can see why people would. But it would be perfect for a hat in a cold climate like Scotland. So I'm going to make a hat for my sister. I might make a matching pair of gloves or wrist warmers, or I could make another hat with this because I've got 300 grams. If I play my cards right, I've got 3 hats, to be honest. Those are probably the most local of yarns I bought, but I did buy from other Scottish vendors at the festival. So let's go through that. This is all the yarn I bought from the yarn shops as well as the festival. In Be Inspired, I bought some fluff because I have plans. I've got no, that's wrong. Adriafil, I bought 2 of these. I've got a hand-dyed 4-ply from years ago that I bought at Yarndale, and it's got little speckles of colour in this creamy yarn, and I thought if I held it with this it would make a really nice Cerberus shawl. It's a one colour jobby, no chopping and changing. So I shouldn't say jobby when I'm talking about going to Scotland, it means something different up there. But Cerberus in one colour, so it becomes like a lemon peel stitch, not houndstooth stitch. I'll revisit that one day soon, hopefully, and talk in more detail about it. I also bought this, the label's coming off. It's Camarose, who I've been curious about for a long time, and it's this Midnutzel in green, 9586, and it's 54% alpaca, 36% lyocell and 10% merino wool, which is a combination I've never worked with, and it's in the most beautiful colour green. This, by the way, sorry, is kid mohair. It's pretty standard kind of thing. I have no idea what I want to do with this. This was a treat, and just because I love green, I don't know what to do with this one, whether or not to work it on its own or match it, pair it with something and hold it double. But at the moment I don't know what to do with it. But it's thicker than a kid silk mohair lace weight. Mohair lace weight is slightly thicker because the brushed alpacas always are, in my experience. So I'm excited to learn what that will become. Who knows? So that was all that I bought in the Be Inspired yarn shop, because as much as I loved everything in there, I had to draw a line and not get carried away, and I felt that the easiest way of doing that was just to keep it really minimal. Onto the fibre yard, I did spend a little bit more, got a little bit more. Well, actually I didn't spend that much more. Those balls of yarn, it was £27, which is quite a lot, but I spent 35 in the next shop and got twice as much. And I bought a ball of Kaos in skinny Andean wool because I want to swatch with this and play with it and experiment to see what it can do. I was really excited by the colours and by this. It's almost like a single ply of, I can't remember what it is. It's 100% Peruvian wool, and I was really excited by the fact that it was a single ply. However, even on its travels, I can see that it's got a fuzzier halo than it started out with. So I wonder how this will behave in a garment. I'm really glad I didn't buy online blindly a whole sweater quantity. I think for something like this, I want to experiment and see how the yarn is going to behave. Maybe I'll just do a square. Maybe I'll make, I think it's a sport weight yarn, because I think it was 150 meters per 50 grams, but it behaves like a double knit because of the way it kind of fluffs up. So if I could fit a pair of wrist warmers in this, that might be a good experiment to see how it wears and how it behaves. But I really like the colours, and I love the idea of it. And they do mohair yarn that matches that colour, that they have merino that matches, and you can, it's really thoughtfully done, properly curated, and I was excited. Next up, I want to redo my quayside shawl, which I love, but nobody else seems to love. So I want to redo it in different colours to see what will happen. But I've chosen actually a very Scottish colour scheme, which I didn't really realise until Faye pointed it out, that it looked Scottish, or maybe it was Michelle, I can't remember. I think it was Faye that said it was a very Scottish colour palette. So it's like a bit like a thistle, get your thistle whistles out. So that's going to become quayside. I do have a couple more of this grey colour as well. That'll be the main colour. So this is Rauma Garn, and I've heard of the brand. I've just never been able to have a play, so I'm very excited to do this. But it's 100% wool, 175 meters per 50 grams. This is going to be perfect for the quayside shawl. Just what I was looking for, so I'm really pleased about that. And it was only £4.50 for a ball, I think. At Ginger Twist, I bought one thing, and I bought some labels actually from her at the show, because she had a stall at the show as well. But from the shop, I bought this boucle yarn to experiment with. I've got an idea. It's 60% merino wool, mulesing free, 40% alpaca. I'm really enjoying a merino alpaca blend at the moment. The merino gives it more structure, the alpaca drape, both are warm. Surely that's a winner. So I'm going to swatch with this as well. Just looking at it, it looks fun, doesn't it? Number one, there's a free pattern for a baby hat that looks like a teddy bear. It's got ears. So it's a knitted pattern. I am instantly drawn to that. But also I would like to make a cardigan in it, and I want to see how easy it is to crochet a cardigan using the boucle yarn. This is, so it's Geopard Teddy Deer, and it's 50 grams, you get 75 meters. I don't know what it's the equivalent of, but it's not as chunky as the last boucle I worked with, where I made a hot water bottle cover. But I'm looking forward to playing again. And my yarn show purchases. This is the first purchase I made, which is not my colours, not my typical colours, but I fell in love. Love at first sight. Iolair yarn. So hand dyed in East Lothian, Scotland. So I'm getting my touristy souvenir yarns in here, because that's what you should do. This is 74% baby Surrey alpaca and 26% mulberry silk. It's a lace weight yarn and it's beautiful. Really, really nice sky blue with, it's like a semi-solid, so there's some tonal shifts in there. And it's bloody lovely. And then I'm going to pair it with this in a design that is brewing. It's brewing up there. This is 100% British non-superwash yarn, 50% BFL, buffle, 50% alpaca, DK. Yeah, something is sort of percolating away, and it's interesting because it's not colours that I thought I would have gone with, but it kind of spoke to me and said roughly what I wanted to be. So now I need to play again, play. I need to experiment and put into reality what is up in my noggin. That was the only purchase I made on day one. Can you believe it? I was trying to be very considered about my purchases, but then the second day I was a bit more like gung-ho and went for it. So the first thing I did was spend £8.50 on 6 labels. They all say the same thing, which is quality SHIT. I don't feel like I can swear on YouTube. Labels by Kathy. Therefore, whenever I finish a handmade garment or whatever, I'll stick a label on. And then I bought this hand-dyed yarn from Eleanor Shadow, and it's called Apocalyptic Tweed. And so this is going to be perfect for crochet because it's got loads of little speckles in it without any big colour changes in the bulk of it. So no pixelation, and I will probably hold it with a mohair because I don't think I'll ever change my mind about that. I've been working with fluffy yarn for years. Yes, it's more expensive, but if it means I get more wear out of the things that I'm making, then it's more economical, rather than making something that I'm not 100% in love with out of yarn I'm not like. It is 425 meters or 464 yards, and it is a superwash merino with a bit of nylon in it. It's the only superwash merino I bought, I think, because I don't know if you ever like can see fashion trends, yarn trends, as they flow in and out, but currently non-superwash is riding high at the moment, and funnily enough, yeah, I enjoy working with it and I enjoy wearing it. I think actually a non-superwash looks really good in crochet stitches. The stitch definition on a superwash is almost too stitch definition-y, and like I like my stitches to kind of like cuddle each other and hang on and blend in with each other so that you create a smoother fabric. And then I bought Skein and The Stitch. I bought these two colours. Again, I'm tempted to do a Cerberus but without the border, to see what that's like, because I love my Cerberus shawls, and I think when you love something you want to make it again and again. So this is a DK. It's 100% non-superwash merino, and it's 225 meters for 100 grams. This is called the North Sea, this beautiful, beautiful blue. And this is called May, and it's part of a Totoro set. I don't know if that's the right word. I mean, I love Totoro. A couple of years ago, we went to see it on stage at the Barbican in London. We took the kids, and one of them at the interval went, "This is the best day of my life," because the show was not only 10 out of 10 spectacular, but they'd also had their first ever Subway, and had been bowled over by how amazing Subway was. So it was really nice to see a Totoro themed collection of yarns. There was one called Ham with an exclamation mark because of Ponyo, and I thought that was cool. But that was the second time I was tempted to buy an orange skein of yarn, pinky orange flamingo colour, and I resisted both times, but now I have regrets. And finally I bought this bag because it reminded me of my nana. It's you know, vintage fabric, remade into a little notions bag, and it was only £10. Isn't that beautiful? It reminds me of, I think my nana had curtains like this in her conservatory, but they were really faded by the sun, whereas this one's not. Hellebore Handmade, the label says. I didn't take note of the stand, but that was probably them, wasn't it? That would make sense. So either a notions pouch, or I can put whatever I like in it. And it's got old fabric, whatever that is, as its lining. And it just makes me so happy. So I genuinely don't think this is as much as I would have bought in the past at a yarn show. This is a yarn show haul. That's quite small compared to what I've done in the past, but thematically they are quite similar, aren't they? What's happened to me? Gosh, quite like them together. Look at that. Lovely. Before I forget, yeah, just want to say how lovely it was to meet folks old and new. So whether or not I've never met you before, whether or not I haven't seen you for 5 years, or whether or not it was only 5 minutes ago. It was really, really nice to hang out with lots of people that all love yarn, and we all love crochet and all want to just make everything. Oh my God, I bought a knitting pattern as well. Where did that go? Me, Faye and Michelle are gonna knit the same thing. I've lost a very precious knitting pattern. Hello to Lorna, who came over, and she brought over her Starburst cowl that she tested when I released the Starburst cowl. She brought it especially, and her positivity spiral that Faye designed, which was lovely, and knitting a really pretty shawl out of the Mamie and Flora yarn with the paillette sequins. What a whirlwind woolly gathering it was. I don't know where that pattern's gone. I'm worried now. Got it. This is the pattern I bought. We bought. It's called Brancaster, and it looks like that. I figured it would be a fun one to do, to use some yarn stash. It's by Jen Monahan, who is, it says, at Fibre Workshop. So I'm at some point this year, hopefully I'll be making this. How exciting. Right, I will let's move over to the B-roll. If you've made it this far and you're looking forward to that, great. But at this point, I'll say goodbye. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoy the rest of the video, and I'll see you again soon. Thank you ever so much for watching. Cheerio, bye.